Capitol Reef Field Station. It's run as a partnership between the university and the national park. And we're going to have a game in the middle of our presentation. We'll do 2 rounds of Price is Right, so you can win either a water bottle or a t-shirt. So if you want to participate, feel free to get up now or whenever you want. We have cut up index cards, and then to win, you write your name on the card. It's good to see some people going there. Write your name on the card, put it in the white basket, and then we'll pull names. We'll bring 4 chairs up here. We'll do Price is Right. If you win the guess, without going over, it's Price is Right rules. Hopefully you all remember. You can win a water bottle or a t-shirt. All right. So I think we'll go from there. So thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, test. Can you guys hear me well? Okay, awesome. Good morning. Thank you guys for having us. I want you guys to humor me. I'm going to start off with a quick little activity. Make sure your feet are nice and grounded, flat on the floor. For those of you that are standing, maybe find something to hold on to. For those of you that are sitting and feel comfortable to do so, please flutter your eyes closed or find a spot in front of you, maybe down by your toes, to put your focus. And I want you guys to find your favorite outdoor place. So maybe it's a waterfall, maybe it's a place in the mountains or a canyon down in Red Rock Country. Maybe it's your backyard or an abandoned lot. Take a moment to find that place. Imagine a familiar place going down to your special spot. As you walk, feel the ground beneath you. Recall the beauty that once surrounded you. As you begin to approach, you notice changes. The vibrant colors begin to fade. You see litter scattered across the ground, interrupting that natural beauty. Take a moment to acknowledge this disruption. Observe the carvings in the trees, the new names and symbols. Hear loud music in the distance, drowning out your once soothing sounds of nature. Instead of fresh earth, you detect unpleasant odors, remnants of fire scars and human waste. Reflect on how these changes affect your feelings. Allow yourself to feel the weight of disappointment and sadness as you recognize the impacts of human activity on nature. Take a moment to reflect on these changes. Take a deep breath and flutter your eyes open when you guys are ready. So I get you guys today to talk about Leave No Trace. Excuse me, we're going to chat about the 7 Leave No Trace principles. We're going to talk about the reasoning why we practice this, the importance of taking care of our planet. I hope this activity kind of opened your eyes to this. And then also we'll wrap up with learning how you guys can get involved, and then we'll jump over to Michael's program. But my name is Cinnamon. I am a UVU graduate, and one of my favorite places is in our backyard, Provo Canyon. And through my youth, I saw this place that was once pristine get more and more impacted over time. And so it's so important that we practice sustainability, practice these Leave No Trace principles so we can keep our wild areas natural. And so future generations can enjoy them in the future. But I began my career as a UVU intern through Capitol Reef National Park, through the Capitol Reef Field Station. Since that point, I have had the opportunity to jump deep into land management. So I've worked for the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and the National Park Service, working as educator, interpreter, and also wilderness ranger, and have really leaned on these Leave No Trace principles to kind of guide me through these realms of work. I've also been working and volunteering for Leave No Trace, started as level 2 educator, and then recently got a scholarship to do a master educator level 2 course. But I've used this in all realms of my work, and think that it is from the craters of Haleakala to the Boundary Waters to Alaska. It has been such a fun career. So we all love nature, yet we all have an impact. So we're trying to kind of balance this access to our wild landscape, but also keep it in a way that is untouched, or as best that we can. And we should stand for what we stand on. We are really stewards of this landscape, and it is our responsibility to take care of it. So as I'm mentioning stewards, I would like to say thank you to our first and forever stewards. We acknowledge that at the Capitol Reef Field Station, the land that it sits on is part of the traditional territories of the people of the Fremont culture, which include tribes, the Dene, the Ute, the Paiute, and the Shoshone, and those are just a few of them. There are actually 30 different tribes that claim descendancy from the people of the Fremont culture. We acknowledge their deep heritage, their cultural traditions, and their stewardship practices. So these have been the people that have been taking care of this landscape for countless generations. And we're committed to learning from their knowledge, their wisdom, and honoring their legacy by being thoughtful stewards of this place. So every group that visits the field station, we have an orientation that we do with them, and they have the opportunity to learn about Leave No Trace and then practice it while they're there. And the reason that we try to do this is because people that know about Leave No Trace, people that have this education, are 5 times more likely to protect the natural landscape. Utah has the second most public land out of any state. We're really fortunate for that, but we might be seeing a little bit more impact because of it, just because we have so much access, and we have those different layers of protection and what is appropriate. But while people are down there, they get hands-on experience, engaged learning, and then hopefully they'll walk away with a little bit of a land ethic that they have built over their time there. So you guys are going to get a little bit of a taste of what we do down at the field station today. I'll go pretty quickly through this. This is Leave No Trace, like overarching themes. So they want to expand training for all people. People are the solution to conservation. So I believe that education is just the way through the door. Increased stewardship. This is really like the core of what we do, and Michael's going to have the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into what our stewardship projects have been and currently are at the field station. And then lastly, expanding science and research, which I think goes really quite nicely with our field station mission. So while we have our participants down there, we place an emphasis on science and research and also creative works. And there is really a growing level of research behind all of these practices that we try to implement. When it comes to Leave No Trace, there is a spectrum. Okay, so one side we have few impacts, the other side we have significant impacts. And I like to think of it as, you know, similar to this college experience. So you could be a freshman in college, like you're just getting your feet wet, you're learning a lot. You have your maybe seniors, and then on the other side you have your professors, so the people that are actually teaching you. Wherever you are on this Leave No Trace spectrum, that is totally okay. I'm going to dive deeper into the principles, and then you guys can kind of judge where you think you are. But we can acknowledge that no matter where we are on this scale, the spectrum, that there's always room for improvement. There are 7 Leave No Trace principles. These are kind of our guidelines, not necessarily rules, but ways that we can practice responsible recreation to minimize our impact while we are out enjoying nature. So for my kinesthetic learners, I'm going to show you guys hand signs, and you guys can do them with me if you're cheesy and want to. But our first one is plan ahead and prepare. So this is us writing everything down, making sure we got good. Our second one is travel and camp on durable surfaces. Our 3, this is take your respect wildlife. And then our last one is be considerate of other visitors. So we're waving, we're throwing up a peace sign or shaka or rock on, your guys' choice. I think that's a fun way to help remember these, and maybe you guys can share this information with others. I'll dive a little bit deeper into each of these, and we'll have a moment at the end for questions if you'd like anything clarified. But plan ahead and prepare, know before you go. There's also a version of these principles for youth. And really these have been expanded to include all sorts of different activities. Mountain biking, rock climbing, hunting, music festivals, I mean, you guys name it. They can be implemented into whatever activity you're doing. If we do this first principle correctly, I think that everything else kind of like falls into line. This is the one that's the heavy hitter. So check your weather. Make sure you're packing those 10 essentials. Have a map. Have an emergency plan. Think about what could possibly go wrong. That's really the times that we have the most impact on an area is when we haven't thought through a scenario, you know? Like, shoots, I'm out way later than I plan to be. I guess I'm making a fire where I shouldn't. I guess I'm breaking limbs off of trees where I could have avoided this. Second one, travel and camp on durable surfaces. We want to choose the right path. The easiest way to do this is just to stay on our designated trails, right? And when it comes to our campsites, the best ones are found instead of made. And you might be thinking it's not that big of a deal. Just think about the population that is coming to our wild landscapes. Let's think about like the field station. Like my 1 footstep out of place isn't gonna be that impactful. But if I have 800 students that I'm bringing behind me, everybody's one small action really adds up. And we can also do the same in the positive light, right? Our small choices, our interactions make a really large difference. So on the bottom, these images right here, we have some different examples of terrain that maybe we're traveling through. Wildflowers, do you guys think this is durable? Not durable, good job. So there is opportunity for adventure. Leave No Trace isn't trying to be like stay to the trails regimented. There are opportunities to get off trail in a responsible manner. So we want to stick to those durable surfaces. So think of our other image, washes, hard-packed ground, sandstone, any of that would be a great option for going and exploring. 3, dispose of waste properly. This is trashing your trash. I think this idea has probably been around the longest, right? Maybe you guys have seen the Forest Service signs that say pack it in, pack it out. We always want to leave a place better than found it, including, sorry, that's for later. We needed a break like that. Sorry. So this includes our micro trash. Something that I see pretty often is orange peels, banana peels, and we're thinking, okay, organics, right? They break down. It should be totally appropriate. Utah, right? We don't have oranges or banana trees here, so we'd be introducing something that is non-native, and then we have to consider wildlife. So when we leave those little food scraps behind, we're drawing the wildlife to where people are. So our trails, our roadways, and then we begin to have issues with them. And then something that maybe is unfamiliar to you, on the bottom of the screen, we have an image of a wag bag. So for a long time, we were promoting cat holes, and depending on the terrain, that's still an appropriate choice. Basically, if you gotta go in the woods, you're gonna be digging a hole 5 inches deep, and then leaving your waste there. If we're the ultimate leave no trace, like professors, we're on the far side of the spectrum, maybe we're gonna be practicing with the whack bag. So it's basically like a human doggy bag. You end up carrying all of your waste out with you. Good, I'm seeing some great expressions. Don't knock it before you try it. You don't lose weight with your backpacking trip, but it's still a cool option. And areas where like a desert terrain, so where the field station is, human waste doesn't really go away. It just kind of mummifies and stays in place. In the right terrain, again, cat holes are a great option. With both of these things, we want to be away from our waterways. So I'm throwing a lot of information at you, I realize, but I'm excited about this. Leave what you find, so take only photos and leave only footprints. Right close to the field station, we have a few archaeological sites. We may be able to find some remnants from people of the past, and it is so hard not to take those pieces home with us. But it's like taking one single puzzle piece from a puzzle and taking that home. Like we can't see the whole picture once we take that. So it's really important that we leave these things in place so other people can enjoy, and also so we can have a better understanding of really what we're looking at and the value that these places hold. Sheds, also moving from Alaska, everybody has a shed on their wall, a pair of antlers, but they create a great source of calcium for all of the rodents in our ecosystem and are really quite important for them. So do our best to leave what we find, minimize campfire impacts, maybe opt out of a fire and enjoy the dark night skies, avoid causing a wildfire, and make sure that everything is out before you go. And there's 4 Ds, not 5, that you guys can look for when you're collecting firewood. So we want dead, not green. We want them down so we're not breaking limbs off of trees. We want dinky, so something like the size of your wrist or smaller, knowing that it's gonna burn all the way up. And then dispersed, so you're pulling from a large area. Just some tips: respect wildlife. We really don't want to alter the way wildlife behaves. If we do that, we know that we're too close. There's a rule of thumb, so you guys can close one eye, extend your arm, put your thumb up, and you should be able to cover an entire animal with your thumb, and that's a safe distance. So I'm probably a little too close for you guys. But maybe if I was the size of like a chipmunk, that would be appropriate. So with those bigger animals, we should be a little bit further away. And last but not least, be considerate of other visitors. Remember that people are out there to enjoy nature too, and maybe don't love your Nickelback song that you're playing on your boombox. So yeah, just be aware about how your actions impact others as they're out. So that's a really quick breakdown of our 7 principles. And I like this slide because leave no trace extends to just or extends past our time outdoors, right? It's part of the planning process. It's part of the travel to and from the trailhead. How does the fuel in my car or me carpooling impact those wild areas? And last but not least, our reflection. So what did I do well? What could I do better for the next time that I go outdoors? And this is a great time for you guys to evaluate that spectrum, your radar. Like, where are you on that? You guys freshmen, juniors, maybe you guys are professors, but no matter where you are, there's always that room for improvement. Education and training. You guys have a few opportunities here at the university, along if you have the chance to travel to the field station. But we find it super important because one person trained in Leave No Trace will reach an average of 250 people throughout their lifespan, which is pretty incredible. So maybe you guys will be able to take some of these tidbits and tell your friends, be a little bit more comfortable when you guys are traveling out. You have a breakdown, you have your recreational side of things, and then your instructor training. The university has, I believe it's Rec 2700, they have hosted a Leave No Trace Level 1 in the past. There is a Level 2 scholarships available for anybody that is interested. Anybody that is here today will be able to get an awareness workshop certificate. So if you guys are interested, I have a sign up in the back. You guys just put your name and your email and I'll send them out to you. So kind of a perk, add it to your resume, feel more confident. And the Outdoor Adventure Center is also hosting another training this winter that will be at the field station. So if you guys are interested in that, stop by. This is also a great resource. They have made a free little 45-minute video on the Leave No Trace website. And something that we're really excited to share is we were just selected to be a spotlight for the 2025 year. So Leave No Trace staff are going to come to the field station, probably offer some trainings, we'll do a stewardship event, but there's a possibility that you guys can get involved with that as well. And what we're looking at here is our list of our gold standard sites. So we're aiming for this spotlight event to be our foot in the door and working towards this gold standard, which is basically, we're an example of how you could implement Leave No Trace in an area. Leave No Trace starts at home, right? It starts with our daily life. Here's a great list of what we can start to think of. Practicing those 3 R's, so reducing what we use, reuse what we can, and then recycle, especially with everything changing in today's world. All of our small decisions really add up to make a big difference. Yeah, it's going to take all of us. So we need everybody incorporating these practices into their daily lives, and we don't need one person to do it perfect. We need everybody to do this imperfectly, acknowledging that we can always be better. And if you guys are interested in becoming more involved in Leave No Trace, seeing what maybe we have as far as a state, here's a QR code. You can become a member or a volunteer. But yeah, thank you guys. Hope you learned a little bit about Leave No Trace, about why it's so important to care about these resources. And then hopefully maybe you're a little inspired to be involved. Yeah, with that, I'll turn the time over to Michael Stevens.
And we have time for a panel discussion at the end, but if you have any questions for Cinnamon right now, that would be great.
Okay, I was thorough then.
All right.
Think on it.
We'll do the questions at the end.
All right, thanks so much, Cinnamon. That's a great presentation. And Cinnamon set the stage for broad principles of Leave No Trace, and now I'm going to get more specific about how we teach sustainability and environmental ethics at the field station. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the field station if you haven't heard about it. It's a partnership between Capitol Reef National Park and Utah Valley University. The park actually owns the building and the land, and then we help manage it. And we do the employees are UVU employees, and we do reservation requests. So Cinnamon's the site manager, I'm the director, and then Jessamy Bowie here is our admin. So you'll interact with one of us in the process of making a reservation. And this really is an uncommon partnership. It's really special that you go to a school that has a field station in a national park, because there are only 11 of them across the country. So there's the map where most of them are in California. There are 7 of them in California. But then there's Capitol Reef Field Station, University of Wyoming has a field station in Grand Tetons, Arkansas State has one in the Buffalo River, National River, and then the University of Virgin Islands has one in Virgin Islands National Park. So there are only 11 across the nation. And a little bit about our mission. So we have a partnership with the National Park. We focus on engaged learning, environmental ethics, and research and creative work in the context of the Colorado Plateau. So I'm going to talk about ways in which CRFS visitors learn about environmental ethics and then experience living sustainability. So the first thing is that our facilities are a model of sustainability. And Cinnamon does an orientation for each of the groups to highlight features of our buildings, like our solar panels and our water treatment center. Cinnamon also talks about leave no trace principles, like she talked about today. And then we have engaged learning activity that promotes waste reduction and water conservation at the field station that all of our visitors participate in. So I'm going to talk about a few of our sustainable features at the field station. I've kind of organized these by resource, so light and darkness, water, and then heating and cooling. So the first idea, along with sustainable facilities, we have great big windows, south-facing windows, high windows, so natural lighting is optimized. So you can use natural lighting through much of the day. And even more powerful, I think, is our off-grid solar power. So all of the electricity at the field station is generated by the sun, and we're completely off-grid. In terms of darkness, a lot of times people don't think of darkness as a resource, but we strive to minimize light pollution because Capitol Reef National Park is designated internationally as a dark sky park. So at night, we close the blinds to make sure that the lights inside the room aren't affecting wildlife or other visitors in the area. That's one of the leave no trace principles right there. Trying to be good neighbors. In terms of our sustainable facilities related to water, we do our own on-site water treatment. So if you like a local brew, this is local brew water produced in situ. And then all of our visitors are talked about, we share water conservation ideas. So one is with that shower head, we have a little button so that you can get the temperature just how you want it. And then you can just press that button and it shuts off the flow while you're soaping up, and then you can turn it on when you're rinsing. So that's a feature that you can add to your own home. We have low flush features in our toilets, and next to all of the spigots we have flow rate, so people kind of get a sense of how much water they're using in each minute. We teach people not to run the water while they're brushing their teeth, for instance. Also related to water is our permeable pavement, so you can kind of see that in the foreground. So a lot of places are either concreted or asphalted over so that the water just rushes off quickly and causes erosion and brings any sediments along with it. But we have permeable pavers, so the water soaks in and slowly moves into the system. So if there are any impurities, they're trapped and processed by natural systems, and it reduces erosion off the side of the mesa. The field station buildings are up on a mesa top. And then in terms of sustainable facilities related to heating and cooling, in the upper left you can see our buildings in the winter. They're passive solar, so they have a lot of south-facing windows. And then this wall right here, it's called a trom wall. So it has cinder block walls painted black, so they absorb heat during the day and radiate it into the room at night. And then there's a blind, so in the summer, if it gets too hot, you can pull down that blind to prevent that absorbance and heat transfer. And then the tall center part of the building, that's called a cooling tower. And it allows the heat air to rise up through that tower, and then we leave that window open so heat can leave. Because heat rises, it'll leave through the building and draw cool air in on a day where you're kind of on the edge whether you need heating or cooling. New at the field station are ductless mini splits. So these are electric heater and air conditioner units that are more efficient than traditional systems, and they allow us to use the solar generated electricity to both heat and cool. All right, so I told you about our engaged learning activities. So all visitors receive some instruction about conservation practice, how to minimize waste and conserve their water. And then as visitors are leaving, we actually weigh all of the trash that the group produced while they were there, and then divide that amount by the number of people and the number of days they've stayed at the station. And then we report how many pounds of trash they produced, and compare that to average American. We do the same thing with water. So Cinnamon treats all the water, and then there's a gauge that she resets whenever a group arrives, so that we can report how many gallons of water were used during the stay, and then divide it by the number of people divided by the number of days they spent at the field station. And we're really proud to report that CRF visitors produce 89% less trash and 54% less water than typical Americans do. So that orientation really makes a difference, and then the idea of kind of living communally in a national park makes a difference as well. So we're really excited about that. So this is where we go to the Price is Right, and I'm supposed to hit my computer here. Sorry to do that earlier to you, so interrupt. So just to get us in the mood.
Do you want chairs on the other side?
Yeah, if you could pull 4 chairs up, that would be perfect while I'm pulling this up. Oh yeah, great. Do you want to pull names out of the hat? That would be awesome.
Isaac Pratt. You're the next one down, because that puts us next.
This will put us in the mood for it. You're supposed to scream when she calls your name.
Ben Hales. Cameron Pennington.
Yes.
And Cooper Lewis.
Yeah, we can do 2 rounds. So we'll call one more person. Okay, so the first guess, and we'll just go in order. I reviewed how this happened, so we can do it right. All right, so the first we're going to guess is for the... Oh, I'll bring the mic. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is the person on the left is going to bid first, and then we'll just go down through here. And it's closest without going over. And I'll tell you, you can use 1 decimal place. So we'll do trash first. So how many pounds of trash does a typical American produce in 1 day? And we'll just go down the line. And then we have to remember their answers. So, because then Price is Right, you have a screen that holds it up. So, all right, so yeah, tell me your name again. What's your name?
Isaac.
Isaac. So Isaac, what's your guess?
Are you going by pounds or like?
Yeah, pounds. Sorry, we don't use metrics. So, welcome to America.
I'll say 8.6.
Okay.
25.3.
All right.
4.2.
All right.
3.7.
3.7. I was excited at first because I thought I could say you've all overbid, but tell me your name right here.
Cameron?
Cameron. Cameron wins. It's 4.6. Woohoo! So we have a T-shirt. This T-shirt is not trash, but it might weigh a half a pound. So, but don't throw it away.
Okay,
Wear
I
it
won't
proudly.
throw it away. Thank you.
There you go. All right. Everybody else gets to stay up here. And then, Jessica, do you want to call one more person?
Dylan Hawkins.
Okay, so I think the rule is Dylan has to go first, and then we'll just go in the same order. Okay, so this one is, how many gallons of water does a typical American use in a day? And then just to give you a little bit more context, we don't count laundry because people typically don't do laundry at the field station. And we don't count watering lawns because people are not watering the lawn at the field station. So this is personal use. So bathing, cooking, cleaning, flushing the toilet, those types of things. So how many gallons does a typical American use in a day? So and Dylan's first, and then we'll go left to right. And you don't have to use a decimal now. Whole numbers are fine.
I'm gonna say 50 gallons.
Okay?
Me next.
Sure, we can go that way. Yeah.
60 gallons.
Okay.
Say 35. 10.
10. So we were in almost, you've all overbid, but 10. 10 wins. What's your name?
Ben.
Ben. The answer's 30. So congratulations. Didn't think you overbid. So we have a water bottle, which is perfect. If you bring this full everywhere you go, you'll use less water and you'll drive down the average. So, all right, thank you. And for these contestants and for everybody else, we have a prize for everyone. There's stickers and pencils back there. So, sorry you didn't win, but you won something else. All right. Thanks for participating. So we went over the 4.6. So typical Americans produce 4.6 pounds of trash per day. And then look at that, a visitor from the field station uses about half, which is 13.7 gallons. So we're really excited about that people get to experience sustainability and that we're making a difference, that our visitors are making a difference. Another thing we have is an exit survey, and the majority of our visitors report becoming more aware of their personal environmental impact. So 96% of our visitors either strongly agree or agree that they become more aware of their environmental impact after staying at CRFS. And then some things that people can do at the field station to kind of live or embody sustainability. There are some service projects that people can participate in. One is graffiti removal. There's a lot of historic Native American petroglyphs and then some more recent pioneer markings on rocks, which is great because that's historic, but then there are so many other ways for us to leave our mark rather than scratching on rocks. So what the park does is remove markings that are less than 50 years old. So our visitors can help in that volunteer process. So that's one way that they can increase sustainability. Another way to experience sustainability is our visitors sometimes volunteer to remove invasive plants. Plants that are not native to the national park. And then some students, including Josh Leone, a botany major, is doing research on an invasive plant that's growing in the national park. And then each year I bring my plant ecology class to the field station, and we study the plant community along Pleasant Creek that runs at the base of the field station. And so we're documenting both native and invasive plants. And what we found over the years is that the green line on top, and that's the native cottonwood, that certainly dominates the community. But even in a national park, there can be invasive species. So tamarisk, the purple line, shows that tamarisk is kind of slowly moving upwards, kind of ebbing and flowing from year to year, and we can report this information to the park so that they can take action to remove tamarisk. And one thing they have done is they've introduced a tamarisk beetle that is really effective at controlling tamarisk in national parks. So a natural method of doing that. Otherwise, it's just the hard work of using shovels to dig it out. Another thing that we've been involved with as an activity to help people experience sustainability is what's called a BioBlitz. So it's a concentrated period of time where people focus on finding as much species diversity as possible in a designated area. So they find, photograph, and identify species in the area. So we organized a BioBlitz. We found lots of plants and reptiles and insects. It involved National Park Service employees and members of the community, so they got to get out into the national park and find biodiversity, experience in the water and on the land. We stayed up late and collected insects using black lights, and then the image on the right is people identifying the images that people uploaded in iNaturalist. And one thing that we're proud of is that our efforts were recognized by the regional office of the National Park Service in Colorado, Parker Hopkins said that he was really impressed with our efforts. They went from 700 iNaturalist observations before our BioBlitz. After our BioBlitz, they had 4,000 images uploaded of Capitol Reef species. So it's a 6-fold improvement. And he was really excited about the way we engaged people and the public in collecting that important information for the park. So we really can extend the efforts of the park in collecting data about the areas that they're managing. And so just to sum up, and then we have time for a panel discussion, so Cinnamon and I can answer any questions that you have. So CRFS teaches sustainability by sharing and modeling conservation efforts, giving people a chance to experience those efforts by doing things like removing graffiti. We encourage invasive species removal and research on those species, and then doing BioBlitz. And so that's my email address, and then our website is just uvu.edu/CRFS. So thanks so much, and we'll take some questions.
Hi, thank you guys, first of all. I think something that when I see a lot of like the statistics or like examples of little things that we should do, like picking up your waste and like the like turning off the water, like when you like shower, like those little things like that. I think it's just, I understand it, but I think something for me, it's hard to grasp like what my little difference is doing in like the grand scheme of things with those little things. So I guess just what is your kind of like encouragement or advice of how those little things do like affect the big picture?
It's hard unless you have this firsthand experience, right? To be like, oh, I changed something and I can see it for myself. I think that's the value of coming to the field station is you do like, okay, I'm not gonna run the water while I'm brushing my teeth. Like, okay, I'm being conscious of that. And then also recycling, composting out there, and weighing and measuring water use, like you're getting this firsthand experience. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity, like do an experiment in your home. Like figure out how much water is coming out of your faucet. Put little sticky note reminders next to it. I think those can be really eye-opening, and that's a way that we can visually see a difference. So challenge yourself.
And I would say it's an opportunity to do something. So what else can you do, like individually? But I think you make a really good point, because I think to have a larger impact, we really need like systematic change and societal change. And I've actually read some things where corporations have been accused of giving people a personal guilt trip, that it's like climate change is up to you to fix, where really we need systematic change. And so I think the way that we can individually affect systematic change, I think the most powerful one is to vote, because a lot of the big decisions that people make, like for instance, like offering tier 3 fuel, a cleaner fuel, you know, you can, as a consumer, you can choose to buy tier 3 fuel, but if it's not available to you, you can't buy it. So it goes to the next level of like government change to have, say, let's sell this type of fuel so it's available to consumers, and then consumers can make their own choices. But I think voting is the way to get the right people in the decision-making places to make those big picture changes. And then another thing is the purchasing. So one challenge is that all of us are like so excited about the latest and greatest to buy the new thing. So I think one really powerful thing you can do, and it doesn't cost you anything, is don't buy anything. Like, for 15 minutes, like just try it. So try it for a day, try it for a week, try being satisfied with what you have. You know, the old adage of use it up, wear it out, or do without. I think you can do that individually, but I really think it's really bigger than us individually. So collectively we can make a difference, but I really think voting is probably the best thing that we can do. Yeah, it's a great question.
Thank you.
Okay, so I work at a grocery store, which means I've noticed how much waste we really produce is just one-time packaging, like one-time use packaging. So my question is, what is your advice for the typical person to be able to reduce the amount of waste we're producing through packaging? Like, what is something we can do to, you know, minimize the amount of trash we're producing based off just the groceries we buy?
Yeah, vote with your dollar, right? Like it's hard. Those single-use plastic items are often the most affordable, but we know about recycling, we know about reuse, so like be used again. So we know that glass is like the ultimate recyclable item, right? One glass recycled is one new glass made. So spend the extra 30 cents. Save the glass jar. What can I make from home? Yeah, buy fresh ingredients instead of the processed, easy foods. It's a lifestyle change. We're not asking. We say that it's small differences, but it's a big tweak from our norm. But once we get into that mindset, I think it gets easier every day.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. I think one thing that you can do at the grocery store is, if you can remember, it's challenging to remember, but bring a reusable bag. I know some people you encounter bring a bag, but then a lot of people say, oh, I forgot. So there needs to be some sort of, you know, way to remember. So maybe you can put a sticker on your steering wheel, like, remember the bags. Like, they're in the back seat, but then if you don't bring them in with you, it's hard to remember. I think the other thing is to address food waste. So maybe this is too much information, but when I open the refrigerator at home, I think, what is going to be bought first? And that's what I eat. That's my job in my family, because other people are more sensitive than I am. But I think, okay, what's on its way out? I better eat it, because in 2 days it's going to be bad. So I think eating leftovers is one thing you can do. Bringing your lunch in a Tupperware. Like, if you've got food at home, it doesn't make sense to let that food rot and then go out to eat. So I think bringing a Tupperware is a Tupperware with your lunch, for your lunch, if you have time. You know, it takes time to plan ahead. And then another thing you can do, and I know a lot of you don't have a lot of space, like if you're living in an apartment, but like a patio tomato, for instance. So if you're growing your own tomato, there's no plastic shell around it. And there's no transportation to get it from market to home. Like, you walk out to your patio, you pick that tomato. And then I think what Cinnamon was saying, let your consumer voice be heard. So for instance, Costco used to sell apples in individual clamshell packing. So it would be like, it was basically like an egg crate for apples. So it's like 3 by 4, and then it's a plastic shell on top, a plastic shell on the bottom. And my wife said, I'm not gonna buy those, because she didn't want all the plastic. And so she never bought apples at Costco. And then after a while, and probably other people were making that decision too, Costco sells their apples in plastic bags now. Because people thought, what am I gonna do with this double clamshell of apple-shaped orbs that's, 1 foot by 2 feet? So I think that's, grow your own, or look for things where the packaging is reduced.
I love talking about food. And it's such an easy connection to make to nature, right? Our grocery stores often remove us from it, right? Like we show up and everything's in a nice shiny package. Our meat comes in styrofoam. We've lost a little bit of our connection from our farmers. So try to get that back. I urge all of you guys to do a food miles activity. So eat a typical meal, and then go and look at all of the labels from what you just ate and tally it up. Figure out how far your meal needed to travel to get to your plate. And then just being more conscious of what can I get local, what can I do myself. Yeah, I think it's a great jumping point for us to start on.
And you probably have some great insights for us working in a grocery store. You want to tell us more? Like what could we do better?
Definitely bring a reusable bag. I've noticed that it just blows my mind seeing how much plastic bags we use at grocery stores. And that's just one grocery store out of a city and a state, and then our whole country that uses, there's some states who have bans on that, but it really is a mind-blowing number just to see how much plastic is being used for a one-time use bag. So seriously, bring your own bags. It makes a difference.
And that's a really important insight. So in case you couldn't hear everything, you might say, oh, it doesn't make that big of a deal. I'm only using 5 bags. But then for someone who works at a grocery store, it's like, wow, I see 200 people a day, and if they all use 5 bags, then there's this big wad of plastic at the end of the day. So thanks for sharing that perspective. I'll try to do better. I'll try to remember.
Hi, my name is Sarah Bateman, and I'm actually the Sustainability Outreach Program Manager here on campus. So I know we've emailed a couple times, and I just wanted to connect real quick on that. But what I've really enjoyed that has come up several times is this, what you pointed out is the gamification, I think, of a lot of these. When people come to the field station, I think there's kind of this challenge that you provide for people where it's okay, we're gonna compare our use to previous, how do we compare with other groups that have come? And so, taking one item and challenging yourself and comparing your use on that one thing. I think just what you've mentioned several times that I think is a really fun approach is making a game of it, challenging yourself. And I think the data that you've collected kind of shows that the value of taking one or 2 areas and just focusing on that and making a game of it and learning a lot along the way. So I really appreciate what you're doing there.
Thank you.
Hey, this field station place sounds pretty cool. If I'm a student or somebody else who's here and wants to come down and take advantage of this cool opportunity, what are ways that I can do that?
So we are working on a list of classes because there are classes that routinely go to the field station. So I'm thinking of like natural resource management, for instance. And then I teach plant ecology in the College of Humanities and Social Science. There's a lot of wilderness writing and communication classes that are routinely offered at the field station. So that's the best way, but I think it's kind of challenging to like find the right class. It has to fit in your major to get to the field station. So one thing that we've focused on as a field station is making the field station more directly available to students. So one event that we did recently with the annular eclipse that was kind of partially offset here, but it was a perfect ring in Capitol Reef. We opened it up to students and we made a student-centered event. Cinnamon mentioned the outdoor adventure center activities to get to the field station. So it doesn't have to be a credit-bearing course to get yourself to the field station. We're working on offering more kind of activities or like an event where a cohort of people are interested in something like an eclipse, or maybe they're interested in wilderness riding or backpacking or bike packing. There's been a bike packing group there as well. So to make kind of those themed type visits to get students to the field station directly rather than having to register for a class that has a trip going down there. And thanks, Betsy. I'm glad you think the field station sounds cool.
It does. I heard once it was cool.
Hi. So you talked about measuring your water use down at the field station. I was wondering what, how you did that and how you would suggest we measure our own water use in our homes. Is there some sort of mechanism or sensor that you were using, or is it just like something else?
So for our system, because we're treating all of our own water, there's just a gauge on our water treatment plant that I reset before each group. So everything just flows through this gauge, and then I can keep track of it and divide by how many people are there and how many days they're there. When it's in your own home, they might make a gauge. I have actually gotten out like a 5-gallon bucket and put a timer on. Like, okay, how long does it take to fill a gallon? It's like, okay, I'll go water my plants or whatever. But then you have an idea of what's running through your home. Do you know of any?
Yeah, I don't actually know of gauges that you can buy. I'm sure you can. They're probably expensive and you might need a plumber to put one in. But one thing you can do if you pay your own utility bill, they do give you a report on it's a monthly use. And so like what I notice in my bill, in the summer when I'm watering my lawn, my gallons per month are a lot higher. And then, you know, when September rolls around, back off the sprinklers, because sprinklers make a big difference. So typical Americans actually use 80 gallons per day if you take into account the amount of water they put on their lawns. That's one thing to be cognizant of. So like if your lawn is soggy, people say that we put as much sprinkler water on our lawns as it takes to grow rice. So we may be overdoing it. So kind of try to run your grass right on the edge, you know, because you don't want it to die, but don't make it, like if you ever kneel down in the grass and you get soggy knees, it's like, you're probably overwatering. so yeah, because that makes a big difference.
And one of our biggest water uses comes from flushing the toilet. So that's over 2 gallons per flush. So something to consider. That's an easy way to cut back. I mean, we always, in my grade, little cross stitch that said, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. And that was something you can incorporate easy.
And if you're not into that, one thing you can do is put like a brick in your the toilet tank, the water tank. That just reduces the amount of water that's available for a flush. So it doesn't answer your question of how do you keep track of it, but it's one kind of tweak that you can do without calling a plumber. Just drop a brick in there, or like a you can sink a filled, if you have room for a gallon, you could sink a gallon jug in there. So like fill it with water, sink it, then you're gonna save a gallon on every flush. If you don't have room for a gallon, then use a quart or a brick.
Hello. My question is more of, I would like to hear you guys' experience, or if there's past research that you've done on in different climates. Like for me, I'm not from Utah, so I'm not used to deserts, and so I had to very much adjust to outdoors and to different climates.
Oh, so I'm thinking like, so because you came from a place where there was more water, then you've had to readjust to living in the desert, is that kind of what you're saying? So it is a little ironic in Utah because I think we're the second driest state. I believe Nevada's drier than we are, but what are we? We're up there.
We're one of the top.
Yeah, top 5 in terms of water use. And I think a lot of it is like the landscaping, because one challenge is in Utah, I don't think we've completely embraced the desert. The idea is, yeah, we live in a desert, but let's put water on it and make it green. And so I think that's where a lot of our water use comes from. But I think you're really right. In the desert, it's all about water conservation. Whereas if you live in a place where it rains every day, you may have other things that are a bigger priority.
A big thing that comes to my mind is varying terrains is like human waste, right? I love this topic. I don't know why. But like here in the desert, we're gonna be using wag bags. Like we're gonna be trying to pack it out, especially, well, in our desert terrains, and then anything above tree line in our tundra, also very fragile ecosystem. It just varies wherever you are at, and by terrain. So it's part of that plan ahead and prepare, seeing how we can act differently and what our different expectations are when we're there.
So my dad worked as a landscape architect for a lot of years, and he worked in desert areas, and so he would try to implement more local plant life that would use less water, but that was still, pretty for the area. Do you teach that kind of thing there at the facility? Is that something you've been involved in at all?
So what we have at the park is we do just what your dad does in terms of landscape architecture. We've landscaped the area with native shrubs, and so there's not any excess water that's needed. So they're getting rainwater, and then I think if they're looking stressed, you might give them a little bit of water here and there, or not yet. so and Cinnamon started in the summer, so yeah, I think that's a great thing that we should probably highlight more, that we're not watering our landscaping, and it looks pretty good. Like it fits with the desert. It's not, a lush, we don't have a lush green lawn by any means, but we have desert shrubs that, some of them are flowering, they're flowering at different times of year. They've got a variety of leaf shapes and colors, and so it looks attractive, but it's not using as much water as if we try to impose, like, I think that what happens a lot of times is people try to impose like Cape Cod on the whole country. And it works in Massachusetts, but it doesn't work everywhere. think we satisfied them. So, great questions. Thanks so much for your participation. And since there's a lull in the conversation, I'll perhaps again share too much. So, so Cinnamon was talking about wag bag. Raise your hand if you've used a wag bag before. All right, so not very many people. So you're actually lucky. One of 5 in the room. One thing that's cool, because so it is a bummer because you have to carry your waste the whole time. And like Cinnamon was saying, usually if you poop out your waste, then it's like, now my backpack is really light. But if you're carrying all your waste, then your backpack never gets any lighter. But the cool thing about wag bags is it's a double relief. It's a relief when you poop, and then it's a double relief when you actually get to throw it out. So I was camping in a place where you needed wag bags, carried that waste out all the time, and then we found it happened to be an empty dumpster, and a bunch of us threw our wag bags into the dumpster, and so it was a big clang, and it's like, it's such a relief to like get rid of that a second time. So double the pleasure. Any last questions? Yeah.
I don't have a question. I'm just going back to you working at a grocery store.
Yeah, wait until you get the microphone.
So something that I've noticed a lot by working at a grocery store is that I don't think a lot of people tend to realize that when they pick up items and decide later that they don't want to purchase it and leave it just on the shelves or like at the checkout, if it's a frozen item or like a cold item, most of the time we're unable to put it back on the shelves. And that just, every single day, it's boxes full of food that could have been sold but weren't and have to get thrown out because people aren't aware that picking up an item and not putting it back on the shelf can cause food waste. So I just wanted to state that because I feel like it's something a lot of people aren't aware of and should be aware of. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So don't leave your chicken in the cereal aisle because they have to throw it out. So if you decide you don't want that chicken, take it back, put it in the refrigerator. Yeah.
Yeah, I was unaware of that. That's really good information to have. And I was listening to a podcast the other day. This woman has created an app for food waste. And I wish I could tell you what app it is. They started it in Atlanta. It was getting really big. We should see if there's one in Utah County. But basically, restaurants can say, hey, we have all this extra food that is going to go in the trash. And then you can buy it for cheap or for free and go pick it up. But yeah, let's feed the college students.
They do have one here. Just, there is one here in Utah County for like restaurants around here. And a lot of them are really good restaurants. And you just get on and they'll say like, come in and get all you want for like, you can get like 5 pounds for like $10 or something like that. So I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I'll figure it out and I'll put it on our Instagram page. And so you can, if you're interested in it. But it's a great way for college students and anybody to eat cheap and for these restaurants not to throw out their food and go to waste. So.
The app is called Too Good To Go. It's everywhere, it's all around. A lot of the time it's appetizers and it's like seriously so cheap. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Any last questions? All right, thanks so much for joining us. We hope to see you at the field station, and there are pencils and stickers at the back of the room as you go.